Whenever the richest man in the world makes a huge power play, you gotta ask yourself, why? And what the fuck is going on in the bigger picture? So a few years back when Bezos bought the Washington Post, that same Washington Post that was once a credible outlet that led the charge on the Watergate scandal against President Nixon way back in the 70s, that has now turned into a cum rag for the left. I don't know why he did that and what the direction of it's going. So it's just kind of weird, especially for a guy who, well, just wasted $68 billion in order to divorce his goofy looking ex-wife who reminds me of the final days of Roger Ebert. Could you imagine literally just taking dick and then all of a sudden you're the 12th richest person in the world? Like, okay, I understand. Oh, she helped out with the foundations of Amazon, but $68 billion worth? Like, okay, Jeff Bezos is known for having a ridiculous work ethic. Do you think old fucking Mackenzie's howdy doody looking ass worked just as hard for just as long as he did? I don't know. The dude looks like a human testicle. So I think that they were probably destined to stay together, but he's been doing pretty fine for himself now that he's the man of the single life out there with, well, significant wealth, because just earlier this year, and that this was prior to him having to fork over $68 billion, he made $13 billion in a single day thanks to the pandemic. Listen, I'm not one of these guys who's coming around yelling, oh, wealth inequality is so bad. Dude, if a guy works this hard and he set up a business that is ridiculously successful, hey, I love me some Amazon. There's nothing quite as fulfilling as being able to go, I need something, and yeah, guess what? Oh, okay, cool. It's going to be there in 2 days to your door, regardless of where the fuck you are. He's made himself the richest man in the world by creating a business that is transformative to everybody's life. Well, let's just see how he made this $13 billion. Now I'm kind of curious. Bezos added $13 billion to his net worth on Monday, the single largest jump for an individual day for an individual since Bloomberg's Billionaire Index was created in 2012. So Warren Buffett could have done this a lot earlier. So, caveat here. Amazon.com Inc.'s shares surged 7.9%, the most since December 2018, on rising optimism about the web shopping trends, and are now up to 73% this year. Bezos, Amazon's 56-year-old founder and the world's richest person, has seen his fortune swell from $74 billion in 2020 to $189.3 billion. Despite the U.S. entering its worst economic downturn since the Great Depression, and anybody who pays attention to the stock market knows that whenever there is a time of uncertainty, that is the time to invest. That is just good business because shit tends to rebound. You just have to make sure that you know which place to invest and what to buy, and that's the tricky part. But just because there's uncertainty out there doesn't mean that you shouldn't take advantage of that. And I also understand that he got a huge portion of the initial bailout money, which seems a little bit off. But you also have to understand that Amazon has a huge payroll that needs to be taken care of. Oh, but he has $189 billion. Well, did those people work 20-hour days in order to create an industry that would require several thousands of people to be on their payroll? No, exactly. I don't fault the guy for making $189 billion. Congratulations. You'd think you'd be able to buy a convincing toupee in that time. Well, let's go back to the more important story at hand that will eventually lead into the most important story at hand. Mark Benioff, founder of and CEO of Salesforce, and his wife recently announced that they are agreeing to buy Time magazine. The obvious next question, why? Yeah, that doesn't make no sense. Time has been a diminishing brand, and especially when this was published in 2018. Why the fuck would you want to buy Time? Nobody gives a shit about print media anymore, and Time's got a really shit reputation. Do they think that they can bring back the magazine? Do they think that they can revitalize it into a thriving news outlet for the right? Because Salesforce and Mark himself lean more to the left, or more to the right rather than most of the other Silicon Valley based enterprises, because Time definitely has a name recognition, So there's reason to think that you're just buying the name in order to revamp it and make it credible once again, because, you know, you hear Time Magazine, you immediately revert back to what? When was the last time Time was even relevant? Anyways, that's not exactly terrible strategy on his behalf, and far be it for me to question anything that Salesforce CEO does. And he had put forward a narrative of a philanthropic white knight swooping in to save a company with a generous impulse purchase, and a brief text message exchange between Benioff and the New York Times did nothing to dissuade us of that idea. Benioff admitted a mere 2 weeks ago that he didn't even know he would buy the media property. While he was quick to assert his long-standing passion for the magazine, his answers didn't expose a particularly salient argument for its purchase, and instead seemed somewhat perfunctory. With this in mind, it was interesting to watch a recent interview of Jeff Bezos, who similarly bought the Washington Post in 2013, and it's been so good ever since then. Okay, doesn't Bezos look like Zuckerberg's biological father? In the course of the discussion, Bezos articulated that the thought process that motivated his purchasing decision, a decision he broke into a two-part framework. By Bezos' own accord, he wasn't looking to purchase or invest in the newspaper business at all. He had no knowledge of newspapers, and it shows with their editorial direction. So like I was saying here, yeah, is it an important institution? Well, they broke the Watergate story wide open, so yes, it does have some name recognition for sure. Bezos began to think about the meaning behind the institution, which would the demise of its institution matter? If this were a financially upside-down, salty snack food company, the answer would be no. But as I started to think about it that way, I started to realize that this is an important institution. Ugh, it's a fucking newspaper. Come on now. It is the newspaper in the capital city of the most important country of the world. The Washington Post has an incredibly important role to play in this democracy. There's no doubt in my mind about that. Yeah, if you can reform it into something that's actually worthwhile instead of what it is right now, because he hasn't really done fuck all. It's just kind of devolved into a fucking social justice rag. But hey, it's not my billions of dollars I spend, so. And here's where it gets weird. Are you optimistic about its future? But Bezos didn't want to purchase it simply to slow the institution's death if it was fated to fail. He was planning on providing operational hospice care for the Washington Post. Instead, he realized he had to believe that there was a pathway to recovery. I wanted to be able to look in the mirror and be sure I was optimistic that it could work. If it were hopeless, that would not be something I would want to get involved with. I looked at it as a super optimistic. It needed to translate to a global and national publication. That's where the globalists come in. Bezos drew his optimism from one simple fact. The internet destroyed most advantages newspaper had built, but it did offer one gift, free global distribution. Which, okay, is kind of weird considering if you go to WashingtonPost.com, you can't really read anything. That's why I don't focus too much of my research on Washington Post, mostly because it is just an absolute cum-stained rag. And because if you click on any article, it immediately comes up with a paywall. So go fuck your mother, and I will never pay for any of those shit institutions. There's a very small list of websites that I absolutely would support once this channel starts creating any kind of income. I just do this out of the kindness of my heart, people. But the Washington Post isn't one of them. So that's what makes his recent comments and recent kind of exploratory nature a little weird. Like, okay, you think about an important institution that they can turn into a global megaphone. And I don't like where this is going. And I don't think you should either. And you clicked on the thumbnail, so you already know where this is going. Billionaire Jeff Bezos looking to buy CNN from AT&T. That is weird. That is very weird. But because I window dressed this properly, you guys kind of know. Okay, CNN, the most trusted name in news, right? It does have global recognition. It's probably the most well-known news outlet in the world. Am I off on that? I don't think so. Chief Executive Officer of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, is considering buying American news network CNN, Fox Business reported. Not Fox Business, which at this point, who really gives a shit? Fucking Fox is stinking up to high heaven. Before this, in 2013, Bezos bought Washington Post for $250,000. Sources told Fox Business AT&T could be looking to sell CNN as its $85 billion acquisition of Time Warner in 2016 left the group in considerable debt. What a train wreck that entire thing has been. The Time Warner merger, and then AT&T buying out, yeah, Time Warner, fucking whatever that conglomerate touches turns to absolute shit. So I'd imagine you'd be able to get this for a pretty decent penny. According to Rich Greenfield, Oive, a technology analyst, it's not shocking to see this corporation wants less exposure to the news division, but I'm a little surprised CNN would be the only asset to be sold given they have a much stronger digital platform than the rest of Turner's properties. Oh, come on, TBS and TNT. TNT is probably it's probably up there with ESPN when it comes to reliable. I use that very, very loosely in the sports culture. So I think this guy just probably has a little bit of a blind spot when it comes to that. U.S. Senator Josh Hawley, who sits on the Judiciary Committee's subcommittee on antitrust, competition policy, and consumer rights group, tweeted one word to this: no, as his response to the story. And I would tend to agree with Hawley because he has some of the hottest takes, and I'm not being ironic when I say that, when it comes to these big tech companies monopolizing shit. Like, okay, Bezos has Amazon, so he controls consumer goods and consumer interests. He has the Washington Post, one of the most recognizable names in print media. And then if he was to buy one of the most recognizable names in digital, well, they have one of the largest fucking YouTube channels. They have absolutely no interaction with their base, but it is one of the most recognizable name in all of news. Fuck, the most trusted name in news, like I've said before. I think it would be interesting because CNN is bleeding viewers, and outside of the election coverage, what the fuck are they going to do when Trump ever leaves? They are really between a rock and a hard place when it comes to actual content. Nobody watches their stuff. Everybody reports on their stuff. Like, okay, the only reason that you know that Don Lemon, Chris Cuomo, Wolf Blitzer still have shows on the air is because whenever they say something retarded, people like myself report on the retarded shit that they say. I don't like to because the signal boost these idiots just prolongs their death spiral, but hey, you know what? Sometimes everybody just needs a belly laugh. So if you put that seemingly unendless bankroll behind a failing institution, you can continue to put out whatever message you want, exactly what he's doing with the Washington Post, but because it's behind a paywall, and there's many other opportunities for that message to get out there through like New York Times and, well, pretty much every other outlet out there that's not the New York Post or Washington or Wall Street Journal. When you get in there and you buy CNN, because, okay, who are the big media networks? CNN, MSNBC, ABC, Fox News. What's the difference? You will run the narrative if you own CNN. And that is weird because, okay, as much as mainstream media, legacy media is dying, they are trying to glob onto YouTube and the alt-tech sphere with feverish ferocity. They will not stop until they have parasitized its form and, I don't know, withered away YouTube until it's just another mainstream media outlet that everybody has readily available access to. And that's what Bezos is looking for. Listen, I love me some Amazon, like I said, but it's dangerous for one person to own the entire sphere on the conversation. And that's kind of what I see the direction of it going. Because if one billionaire hops in and buys a media outlet, what's stopping another similar-minded billionaire to stop the bleeding over there at MSNBC? Just something I think you guys should know because it's setting dangerous precedent out there. I want to thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you guys to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.